Ted, do you believe you have a soul?
What did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me with tears in your eyes? That answer your question?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. Got a fun one for you today. I think I say that before every match, but oh, do I mean it today? Because we got Jack Pinchuk. He's returning. He's back, and he's going up against Brooklyn Vail. Returning back. I love it. I love to see it. This is the second time these two have played, I believe. I believe they've played before. Could be wrong about that, but I think they've played before. But they're back. I'm excited. This is part of a title picture. Brooklyn hasn't gotten that success here in this debate league that he's found in other leagues. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do today. Jack, on the other hand, has found some success here, but has never been able to kind of take it all the way, get to the title. So this is the first step to do that. I'm looking forward to it. I got Mark and Robert here with me. Mark, welcome. How are you, sir? What do you think of this matchup?
Oh yeah, it should be interesting. Fan of both these. Brooklyn. I mean, honestly, both of them. They're just you could just say some wild shit sometimes. It's just funny. Like last time, Brooklyn coming here talking about some weird stoner movie that nobody's ever heard of, and then I think the last time Jack was here, he tried to tell us that the Blue Beetle has to be shoved up your ass or something for it to work. So yeah, I mean, this could be an exciting match.
I forgot about that. Robert, it's welcome, sir. Sorry. Robert, welcome. Yeah. How are you? What do you think?
What do I think? I think Mark should do a tight 5 before every match is what I think. Yeah, you want people who are of equivalent talent and skills when it comes to debating. I think both these guys reach on the equal playing field. I'm glad that apparently they say and use weird stuff because that's what you really want from a debate. If it's not going to be the most eloquent potentially, then you want it to be the most weird. So that's what I'm hoping for today.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right. So this is going to be exciting. Let's get into it. This is how it's going to work. I'm going to bring in Jack and Brooklyn, and they have each drafted categories. We gave them questions based on their categories. They're going to debate those tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Mark, Robert, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. First player to 3 points wins the match. Jack and Brooklyn, welcome. Any questions?
Not a question, more of a statement. No matter how bad that or how weird that quote was from my last match, Mark, it's no RJ saying fucking Vulcan doesn't get you a humpback whale in RJ versus Coho.
That's true.
That will always be the greatest quote in this league.
That was featured when we did the final act last year. We put in famous moments from Fandom and Fanzone. I had to put that one in there because the fucking humpback whale is just gold. Anyway, great. So glad we've talked about blue beetles and humpback whales. Let's get into it. All right, we are going to kick this off with your first category. It was drafted by Jack in the category of Oscars. Your question is, what is the best performance that won an Oscar before 1980? Jack, because you drafted this, you get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
As much as I love Ingrid Bergman Gaslight, I've already talked about her here. And besides, there's a better performance that won before 1980. Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is not just the greatest acting performance to win before 1980, he's the greatest acting performance to win ever. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he plays he plays a convict who is faking mental illness to get out of prison and into a mental institution because he thinks that would be easier. And when he is in there, he changes as a person. He realizes that the people in the place that he's at aren't and well, they're just people. They're normal people, and that are being honestly really mistreated by Nurse Ratched. And the journey he takes, you see a full range of emotion from him. It's truly, it's unlike anything he's ever done.
Okay, let's move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
All right, so we're going to go with probably the best classic performance before 1980 that won an Oscar. We're going to Vivien Leigh in A Streetcar Named Desire from 1951, obviously based off of the Tennessee Williams play. This was the theatrical adaptation. And in terms of classics, this is kind of the pinnacle, the S tier, if you will, of incredible performances. She just shreds herself playing this role, playing the sister who kind of moves in with her sister and her brother-in-law, and just watching the descent of that character that has kind of become a highlight of movies to this day. People are trying to match that. She bridges the stage and screen acting at a time when most couldn't. People were so used to theatrical or theater style at the time. Her performance defines the character to stay. You cannot think of Blanche Dubois without Vivien Leigh.
Time. Okay. All right, gentlemen. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
No, nothing.
What?
No,
I'm gonna throw the 1 minute warning up when the time comes. Sorry. And if you're talking too much, I'm gonna throw that up. Don't make me do it. It makes me sad. Okay, 5 minutes. One of you.
I think there used to be something about a stick in there. But anyway, I do love Vivien Leigh in this movie. Don't get me wrong. But I preferred the other time she won an Oscar for playing the Southern Belle archetype character that she kind of invented with her win with Gone with the Wind. I like. Here's the thing. It's a great performance, but it's not even the best performance in the movie that won an Oscar because Carl Malden is right there. I love Vivien Leigh, but Jack Nicholson is on a whole different level here. He's got an entire range of emotion that he brings to this character, from his first scene where you can clearly see he's just trying to con them into admitting him, to the final bit before he's lobotomized, where he is just he is throwing himself at Ratched for these people. It is heartbreaking. He's a heartbreaking transformation, and there's substance there, whereas she's all flash in hers. There's no substance.
Okay, so I can match the argument of Jack Nicholson's performance is not even the best performance in that movie. Nurse Ratched is the character that people still talk about to this day. They made a spin-off show based on her. We're not talking about Jack Nicholson's character from that movie. They're not looking to explore that character anymore. You talk about the range that he has in the movie. It's basically just charm. It's not that demanding of a performance. He is really just like, knowing what we know about Jack Nicholson now, he's really just kind of playing himself. He's really relying on the other characters, like your Danny DeVito's, like your Christopher Lloyd's, and your Nurse Ratched's, to really kind of like play off of. And when you're just being Jack Nicholson, there isn't a ton to do here. Whereas with Vivien Leigh, there is so many different emotions that she has to encapsulate throughout the course of this film, whether it's whenever she meets Mitch and she has to have like this mix of like coy flirtation, anxiety, shame, and hope, and she does a really good use of prop works, whether it's how she uses like the lantern, the cigarette, and the glass as these kind of like regulators to kind of signify the audience with how she is feeling at the time.
I do agree that she's great, but what Nicholson brings to this, like you said, he has this charm to him And it makes his performance more infectious. It makes it more. It makes you care about him more. And then when you see him go on the street, when his friendship with Chief Bromden is one of the best written dynamics in a movie between two characters. It's beautiful, and the final and that final scene between the two just brings if you do not cry watching that, then what are you doing? And that wouldn't be possible without Nicholson's perfect performance in this movie. Whereas Ratchet, yes, it's spun a TV show, but hey, A, no one talks about it, and B, TV doesn't matter here. This is movie talk. The scene where he's trying to get them to be able to watch the World Series game is if that is one of the most charismatic, infectious scenes I have seen an actor perform. It's incredible.
But that's not him becoming a character, though. That's not him giving a performance. That's him reading the script and just being like, all right, well, like, how would I normally sort of do this? You don't really get anything throughout that. Whereas with Vivian Lee, you even get more scenes, like the paper lantern confrontation with Stanley. You have like this oscillating power dynamic of how there is like this nervous humor, this defensive cruelty. When Stanley tears Lantern down, she doesn't reflect in like this like one clean beat. It's like the second of disbelief, like this actually happened, and then there's just so many emotions, and it's like when people try to recapture it, they go after that performance because there's so many emotions to tackle throughout that. And if we're talking about endings, thinking about the infamous quote, "I've always depended on the kindness of strangers." It's this rebuttal to your point, where Nicholson is kind of like the anchor of this movie, whereas you get to watch Vivian Lee transform into this character. This is serenity that is manufactured, relief that is peaceful, and this undertone of residual terror throughout the movie.
Done. Okay. We are going to start closings with Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start.
Jack talked earlier in the freeform where he was saying that Gone with the Wind had the better performance of her being a Southern Belle. She's just a Southern Belle in that. It's very stereotypical in that sense. Whereas with Vivian Lee, this is the creme, or this with Wendy Well rather, this is the creme de la creme of stage adaptation performances. It doesn't oh my God, where am I? There we go. Lee gives Blanche a coherent inner life even after reality is gone. That it's not showy acting; it's precision. She knows when to provoke certain emotions throughout that film. Whether it's whenever Mitch confronts Blanche about her past, she juggles about 5 different emotions. There's like brightness, there's seduction, there's panic, humiliation. There's so much to encapsulate in this role.
Time. Okay. Let's move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Jack Nicholson is giving a performance that no other actor could give. That is the beginning, middle, and end of this. Anyone else could have played Vivian Lee's character. Hell, they got most of the Broadway cast back for this, except for her character, because they wanted one movie star. Whereas nobody could have played Randall Murphy like Jack Nicholson could. He is the best possible actor to play him. He brings the charisma. He brings the emotion. He brings a full range of different dynamics to this character, and it's his chess match with Nurse Ratched throughout the movie that makes you realize how much he learns to care for these people. Vivian Lee is all flash in her performance, don't get me wrong, but there's no substance there. Jack Nicholson has flash and substance both.
Okay. Bring in the judges. right. Okay. All right. I have seen one of these movies. I guess which one. I went with Brooklyn. I felt like Jack spent a lot of time on the character. He did talk about the performance, like he said, like only then could have played the character. It brought up a few things, specifically performance centric, but I feel like for the most part, Jack really focused on the character, and I think Brooklyn did a pretty good job of kind of taking that angle down and kind of bringing his performance up and the different emotions that come out of the actress, and how it was like, I think he used the word creme de la creme at one point. So I went with Brooklyn, though neither necessarily I thought was like, wow, but it was just like, I thought Brooklyn did the overall the better job. That being said, I laughed really hard when he said that quote from the end, because it just made me think of Jesse Eisenberg in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And that's hurtful, frankly. I almost didn't give you the points because of that. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I also went with Brooklyn. I think I got a little bit more from Brooklyn, just kind of on like kind of how Vivian Lee, I feel like, had to do more in her performance. I think he also did a pretty good job just knocking down Jack Nicholson in that movie throughout. Not the best performance in that movie. He's kind of playing himself. Like all those things. I also do agree, kind of Tim's point of Jack kind of got lost in the weeds in a little bit with his argument.
Okay. Robert, your vote does not count. Where would you have gone?
Right where I want to be, Tim, not mattering in the decision whatsoever. Interesting how you both took this. What I got from this, there was a lot of admissions between both about the good parts of each one. I kind of felt like it was the same argument that both were relying on charm. So I just was looking at kind of volume in this case. And I think Brooklyn said one thing against Jack Nicholson, and Jack said like 2 or 3 things against Vivian Lee. So I actually went with the Quack Attack is back, Jack. I went with Jack Pinchuk because I felt like I just got a little bit more, even though the arguments were equivalent in my mind. He at least had a little bit more against Vivian Lee. So based on volume, pretty much, I gave it to Jack.
Okay. All right. Well, Brooklyn wins point numero 1. We are going to move on to the next question, which was drafted by Brooklyn in the category of biopics. Your question is, which biopic based on a musician has the best ending? Brooklyn, we're going to begin with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
All right. So we're talking about incredible endings in musician biopics. We are going with the great Elton John from Rocket Man. For those who have not seen the ending, I'll kind of give it a brief description. So it goes to that group meeting that starts at the beginning, and then you have each moment of his life kind of come in. So whether it's his grandmother that really loves him, his mom, his dad, his piece of shit ex-boyfriend/manager, and then his young self. And this ending is incredible because the key message here is about self-love, and then the icing on the cake, and really the best part of this whole thing is this reimagination of "I'm Still Standing" and how it slows down that first verse and really encapsulates line for line what is going on. You can never know what it's like. A blood like winter freezes just like ice, and there's a cold and lonely light that shines on you. You will wind up like the wreck you hide behind that mask you use, and it really encapsulates how he is. He is a wreck throughout the movie, and now he is better.
Woo-hoo! All right. We're going to move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
When I thought of this question, when I saw this question, there was only one movie that popped into my mind, and that was Amadeus. This movie is a phenomenal biopic about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Antonio Salieri, and depicts their relationship as this great rivalry between the two. even if it was more on Salieri's end. Salieri loves music and is gifted, but not nearly as gifted as Mozart, and he is jealous of him. And this fuels the rivalry throughout the film, and it culminates in this ending where Mozart is basically killed by his passion and his talent for music, while Salieri has to live with the knowledge that he will always be less than Mozart and mediocre. And it's perfect.
Okay. All right. Rocket Man and Amadeus. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
All right, your ending sucks. It's awful. You know why it sucks? Because the best part of the movie isn't part of it. Mozart, like when you go back to like any scene that anybody talks about Amadeus, it's about Amadeus. You need both of them to have that rivalry. So at the end, when he's old in the rocking chair and he's like, "Oh man, I'm living for like 32 years or something. Oh, Mozart dies and people remember him and I'm gone." It's literally just like the director kind of like pointing, like getting us to point the finger and being like, "Ha ha!" Like Mozart isn't here. And we still get to celebrate him while you're just kind of like a piece of shit. Why don't we end this on the title character? Why don't we end this on the best part of the movie? That's what Rocket Man does. Rocket Man you get to look at it from multiple perspectives, whether you want to look at it from a stance of like drug abuse and addiction, whether you look at it from sexual trauma, from the relationship that he has with his manager, or the relationship he has with himself about being true to himself, because initially he wants to be a country star and like he can't really be a country star with that style of music. And it's about making the music that he wants to do and encapsulate it with a great song of I'm Still Standing. You look at that last line, you think this fool could never win. Well, look at me, I'm coming back again. And he stops and he admires what's going on. And it uses that song so well, line by line. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. You said so much shit about Amadeus there. Oh my goodness. So first of all, yes, it's called Amadeus. It is just as much a movie about Salieri as it is about Amadeus. And that ending where he dies and is basically unceremoniously buried with a few other people, and then which bleeds into the ending of the confession and the priest just head down, looking down, completely at a loss for any words that he can say to Salieri after he's told him everything he's done. And then Salieri is rolled away at knowing that he is not, that he is less than. Like, yes, it's not to have us point the finger and laugh at him. He is laughing at himself and at everyone else around him, because he is their patron saint of mediocrities. And whereas Rocket Man, it's a great movie, but it completely abandons the framing device to recreate the music video to I'm Still Standing, like directly. Like it is just that music video tagged onto the end of the movie, but with bad CGI inserting Edgerton in. Like it completely takes you out of of the emotion of that ending. Whereas the framing device was the only thing interesting about it at that point. Sorry.
But no, you need that rivalry there. When he's like, "Oh, I'm the patron saint of mediocrity." It's such a shorthanded ending, given how vibrant and how chaotic the film Amadeus is at times. You were going on about how it's a disservice to the theme. It wraps everything up quite literally in a bow tie. He's even wearing a bow tie in it. You get the meeting with his grandmother, who definitely loves him. The strained relationship that he had with his mother, with his father, with his manager, and then he kind of addresses those as like, yes, I was a troubled child at the time, but look where I am now, and we should be able to forgive ourselves and move on. And then you have like the heartwarmingest part of the movie is when his younger self comes in and he embraces him, and it's this really important lesson of self-love. And if you've ever struggled with learning to love yourself for who you truly are, it is such an important moment to really latch onto. Whereas with Amadeus, there really isn't anything to latch onto other than like, all right, well, we have like the worst part of the rivalry where he's literally just kind of like admiring Amadeus, and he's gone.
I loved your description of the ending of Bohemian Rhapsody there before the Amadeus bit. That's the thing with your ending is it's not even like an original take on the ending of a music biopic, whereas this one it reimagines the history between these two. And yes, the rivalry may have been started by Salieri, but it was there on both sides. It was.
It may not be original, but Barack Man. The original Barack Man was better. People talk about it being better reforms.
Okay, we're gonna begin with Jack. Jack, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
"32 years of torture, 32 years of slowly watching myself become extinct. Salieri explaining why Mozart's death is still Mozart winning in this rivalry between them without knowing. Salieri and having Salieri living to witness his mediocrity and devolve into being totally forgotten is a brilliant ending. It doesn't just pay off one ending with Mozart or like right before this. It pulls off a second ending for another main character this movie is also about. It's an incredible feat by Milos Forman, who is one of the great directors of his time. And I cannot believe that we even have to have this conversation, because I love the movie Rocket Man, but it completely abandons the thing that made that movie unique in the framing device and just tags the music video to "I'm Still Standing On" at the end. It's a great music video, but it's made worse by the bad CGI insertion of Edgerton.
Okay. Let's go over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start.
Bohemian Rhapsody was in the Oscar scene, and Rami Malek won. Everybody was like, shit, now Taron Egerton is not going to get nominated because of this. And everybody, you, Jack included, and the judges were like, man, Taron Egerton was indeed the better performance. He got robbed of a nomination because of that. You said it yourself, Jack, that Cagliari's ending is the second ending, because you know what it should have been the first ending? It should have been Mozart's ending, because you need both sides of that rivalry to work the whole 32 years of mediocrity. And then when he's like getting pushed into the rocking chair and it's like, I absolve you, it's cringeworthy. It's not even like so bad that it's funny. It's just bad. You talk about the music video being latched on. This is really to show that Taron Egerton is the person to play Elton John. And yes, it's a scene for scene kind of reenactment, because it is a great music video, and they need to bring the song back up to the normal tempo. And why not have a great video to be a part of it?
Oh boy! All right. Not to throw shade or anything, but that was better than the first fight. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Though, watch your timing, boys.
Yeah, sorry.
I get a little hot for Elton John.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't blame you.
I don't get to debate music often, but when I do.
Fun fact, I was actually going to take biopics before you took it.
Oh, yeah?
And then you took it and specified music. I'm like, okay, this is fine. Oh.
Robert, whenever you are ready, you may be the first. You're muted.
Including, I had a lot to think about, including being muted. So I appreciate that. So yeah, this definitely was a better debate than the first one. I think the first one, like I said, felt like carbon copies. This one felt a little bit more unique. I was sort of floored by Brooklyn at the beginning. I think he kind of like it almost seemed like a death blow, honestly, at the beginning. And then he sort of took a lot of the air out of the room for the beginning part of the debate. Jack fought back pretty handily. I liked how it is that they framed the attacks against each one. But what I think is that there was such an uphill battle at the beginning that Jack seemed to be on ice skates a bit, and I don't think he ever got it back. So I went with no sleep till bottom, bump, bump, Brooklyn, because of how I thought the beginning part. I think it was like 2-1 rounds. I think Jack's ending was pretty strong, but I think Brooklyn was kind of like a tidal wave that crashed over him for the first two pieces of the debate, and Jack never recovered, in my estimation. So I went with Brooklyn.
I went with Brooklyn as well, and I thought I agree with a lot of what Robert said. Yeah, I just think I like both these movies. I think Brooklyn coming out of the gate just being like, your ending sucks, was like, oh, I can't wait for Kirk to see this because he fucking loves that movie. And I just think that the way Brooklyn argued it, of just being the way he described the Rocket Man ending, what it does for the character, the way it wraps up the whole movie. Jack's big hit on it was that it's a recreation of the music video. I think Brooklyn kind of made a point of like, that doesn't really matter. Like it's a cool way to end it. There's all the stuff before that that is part of the ending that makes it great too. I don't necessarily agree with the way that Brooklyn categorized the ending of Amadeus, but based on the argument, like I get where he was coming from, and I think it worked really well. I think Jack did a great job of talking about the Amadeus ending, but I don't think he really had anything that really detracted from the Rocket Man ending for me. Throwing out stuff about I get the shade against Bohemian Rhapsody, like why you would throw it out at this similar blah blah blah. But yeah, that didn't work for me. So I went with Brooklyn. Mark, you count as a person. I'm just trying to make it clear, but your vote doesn't count. Where are you going?
Yeah, so they're clean sweet. Brooklyn. Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you guys kind of brought up. I think probably I think Brooklyn did a better job of kind of explaining how like his ending kind of wraps everything up, and kind of every moment of that ending kind of closes a character arc, at least for Elton John in his movie. I think Jack did do a solid job battling back. I really liked his ending too. Just and you know, nice try at the Bohemian Rhapsody shots. You know, they went over better than you thought they did, but it wasn't enough.
All right, fair enough. All right, so Brooklyn is up 2-0. That means that Jack needs to hit this one in order to send it to the bonus. So he drafted this category. It's the category, or I'm sorry, to send it to the fourth question. My apologies. So this is the category of romance. Jack picked this one. Question is, which romance film has the best central relationship? We are going to start with Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Look, I'm me. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite. And the main reason for that is the relationship between Marianne and Eloise. The film centers around a painter in 18th century France who is tasked with painting the portrait of a young woman. It's for a man from Milan whom her sister was supposed to marry, but she died. But Eloise, not wanting to be painted, refused to let the previous painter see her. I described all this to you because it establishes the basis for this relationship. It brings these two together, and though it starts out with deception, it grows into something that is just truly beautiful. These two, and as it progresses through the film, you see the relationship become. I struggle talking about this movie. It's perfect.
That's fair, man. No worries. Well, maybe worries. You got to do it for the next 5 minutes, but we'll go to Brooklyn first, and then Brooklyn. 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Is it perfect though? My choice is the correct one. We're going with the GOAT, Jane Austen, and the film adaptation of her book Pride and Prejudice. This is, of course, the relationship between Elizabeth Bennet, played by Keira Knightley, and Mr. Darcy, played by somebody. This is based. So Elizabeth Bennet is kind of like she's one of many sisters of the Bennet family. The whole deal around her is that being like, oh well, if she needs to get married soon, and if she doesn't, what's the point, basically? Because that was the thing back in the day. And then Mr. Darcy is kind of like this, like the movie says, is like this was prejudice person that kind of has some of this prestige, and you really get to see their relationship evolve. They're so stuck in their own individual lives that they don't recognize that they like each other. There's misunderstanding, self-reflection, growth, mutual respect, because they want to change for each other, and that change is earned. I yield my time.
Yeah, I yield my time. All right. 5 minute free form when one of you starts.
Okay. Look, Pride and Prejudice is the classic. I'm not going to lie to you. But if we're talking best couple, starting off with arguing your case for a couple who the only reason the man is in the relationship and trying to change it all is so that he can sleep with her. A man who broke up the engagement of her sister and her fiance. So he's kind of a shitty dude, my guy. Whereas the two people in my movie, there is never any malice in any of their actions. Though they start off on different pretenses, then the relationship grows into something that is just truly beautiful. And you can see that growth not through dialogue like your movie, but through the silent moments between the two, whether it's a glance or a card game, or reading a story, or sharing a kiss. It is the little moments that deepen this relationship, and you see that in that final perfect scene. Yes, this movie is perfect.
So yes, Mr. Darcy is not a good person at the beginning, but you get to see their growth, and at the end, they mutually choose to be together. They have this shared future, which in turn is deeply satisfying. The problem with The Portrait of a Lady on Fire is that yes, it is a central relationship, and that these two do yearn for each other. They know themselves that it can't be a relationship because they have to hide every sort of moment and whatnot. Like they can't have this relationship in public. That's why they have this like awkward sort of gazing, and it becomes a bore and it becomes a grind throughout the movie, to the point where you even get right to the ending. And you get to that concert scene, and I think it's Eloise, the one with the blonde hair. Yeah. So she comes over, and then she's staring, and like everybody talks about like, oh yeah, this is like a breathtaking moment. I couldn't breathe during it, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, she's staring at the concert, and she's crying. I don't get this intensity that the rest of the film has. Yours is lust. Yours is a desire of attraction. It is not meant to be a relationship. We look at both of our movies. Darcy and Elizabeth are together at the end. Marion and Louise, no, they cannot. So they're like, let's make a fling out of this.
Look, man, plenty of relationships that are together at the end aren't necessarily the best. And besides, this isn't the most realistic relationship, or the most. It's the best. It's the best relationship that we're arguing here. And I guess I just don't get why Mr. Darcy changing to sleep with Elizabeth is is very redeeming for him. Whereas this movie, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, yes, it's that final scene that ties everything together so perfectly. Marianne says, "I saw her one more time. She didn't see me," and then it shows Eloise watching the concert, and it's the song that they were playing together when they were together, and the entire thing just comes back to her, and it is, and it just finds its way out, and she can't contain her emotion. You see it in the painting at the end. It's when she still has the book and the page number marked. It's that movie is just beautiful, man. I like, it's a great, Pride and Prejudice is good, but if we're talking best relationship, there's 10 others I'd take over that one in a heartbeat.
But like, look at the relationship that Pride and Prejudice had, and look at the relationship that it inspired because of it. Like the most relationships in Star Wars: Han Solo and Princess Leia, Kylo Ren and oh my God, what's her name? I forget. I don't play Phantom. But you look at like Mr. Darcy and like why he changes. They have that pivotal moment where they're talking in the rain, and there's this whole like misunderstanding because Elizabeth opens up about like how she can't even be open to her own sisters enough, and with Mr. Darcy, he's just so stoic in his nature.
Okay, Brooklyn, we are starting closings with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Pride and Prejudice is love that is meant to be built upon and to sustain. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is quite literally an attraction and a lust. It's so quick, and they know that it can't happen at the end, so they really don't get to build on the full fundamentals of what a relationship should be. Portrait isn't about a relationship that could exist in the world. It's about whether a love that can't last is still real, and it can only be real in their own private world. So they have to be so secretive of it and whatnot. And you look at Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, you get to see, like, especially after that rain scene, Elizabeth is much more attentive for when Mr. Darcy is here, because she knows that from that moment they can have an understanding for each other. Anytime that he comes in, he's like, all right, cool, this is my chance to really grow that relationship that we have, and that's why it's the best.
Okay, let's bring in Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
First of all, are we really going to take a relationship advice from someone who thinks that Rayla was a good relationship? But no, all jokes aside, if it was lust and just a quick thing that didn't matter in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, then the ending wouldn't be there. The scene where years and years and years down the line, Eloise is at this concert, and it's the song that they played together when they were together, and everything comes back to her, and she still has those feelings years later. That's real. That's that's why Portrait of a Lady on Fire is so great. Yes, the relationship can't exist out in the open because of the repressive society of the time, but it's a real love. It's beautiful, and that's something that Mr. Darcy, who's just a shitty guy, doesn't really have. It's yeah, no.
Time. Okay. All right. Let's bring in the judges.
Tim, can we put some respect on Matthew McFadden, aka Tom Wamsgann's name, please?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, because every time he shows
I forgot
up,
to mention.
every time he shows up in anything, Maggie just goes, "Oh, it's Mr. Darcy," and I go, "Yeah, I know."
Okay. He's also, what is he, Charles Gateau now? I think he murdered James Garfield.
Yeah,
aka
I believe
Michael
that. I
Shannon.
believe that's correct.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
see that show.
Yeah, me too.
Mark, you're kicking us off on this one.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm doing that. On the question that, I mean, like I could be, I can't be like any less qualified to make a call on this question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I end up going with Jack. I think I liked where he was going with, and honestly, like if the if we were to award the continuous bashing of an ending from the last point, I feel like there has to be some stock taken into Jack continually bashing one half of this couple who he just kept saying was a shitty guy, which I don't know. I guess he is a shitty guy. And like he talked about the ending of the Portrait Lady on Fire. I was like, all right, I guess that does sound like love. All right. Like, yeah, these two ladies just, really, really wanted to give each other. It sounds nice.
All right. Yeah, it sounds nice. Robert, what are you thinking?
Mark, I'm betrothed, and I'm not sure if I'm necessarily qualified to talk about this either. So, we all have problems. Yeah, like I have no concept of either of these movies. I know like Pride and Prejudice is a story, but I haven't watched either of these movies. So I was focusing particularly on how it is the description of the relationships within the context of the movies took place. And it seemed like we went from a situation where one relationship starts out from a level of non-truthfulness and blossoms into something real, and then there's another relationship that's sort of real and passionate that never gets to develop fully because of the situation of the times. What really constitutes this is like a philosophical discussion, really. What constitutes a relationship? This is what we were talking about. And then so it's kind of more of a philosophy discussion, and we sprinkled some things about like what's going on in the movie. There were a couple points in this that I thought stuck out. And because of that, did you guys ever watch Aladdin and the King of Thieves? That has some banger songs. One of the best songs in it is "Are You In or Out?" So I went with "Are You Pinchuk or Out?" I went with Jack on this one because, like, first of all, the Raylo thing I thought was funny. I think that was a nice little like kicker at the end. So I thought that was pretty good. But talking about the nature of a relationship, just because it can't necessarily be out in the open doesn't mean it doesn't have legs, or it doesn't mean it doesn't have depth to it. And I think there's a level of Jack, as Mark alluded to, hammering home the point that there is a level of like distrust or something that happens. There's not a truthful place from where Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth start. And I think that can lead to an invalidation that sort of trumps over what Brooklyn was trying to say with the invalidation of them not having a relationship at the end in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. My point is I'm saying that I think Jack hit home enough points about what makes a good relationship within the context of his movie a little bit better than what Brooklyn was saying. So I went with Jack. Again, Return of Jafar and King of Thieves have just as good a songs as Aladdin. I don't care what anybody says. Write home about it. Whatever. Ended.
I'll give you the King of Thieves point. I don't know about Return of Jafar. I actually went with Brooklyn again. Sorry, Jack. Love you, but I thought both of these movies, and I thought that Jack did a great job with Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I think he did. Again, like I think it's a great movie. I personally felt like Jack did the Jack thing of like when he talks about Your Name or whatever that one anime movie is, where he just like loves it so much that he almost like stumbles over himself in his argument when he's talking about it. I felt like most of his argument for the movie was like, their relationship is so good. God, I fucking love this movie. And so it was just like, oh, whoa, Nelly. And I thought that as someone who does not like Pride and Prejudice that much, but has watched it many times because his wife loves it, I thought that Brooklyn did a pretty good job of summing up that relationship, and also talking about how there's good and bad in relationships, and how, yeah, it might not start great, but at the end, there's good there, and it's a good relationship. So I don't know with Brooklyn, but Jack is on the board. It's 2-1, and we are moving on to the final prep question. Now Jack needs to hit this in order to send it to the bonus. Category is comedy. The question is, what is the funniest joke in a scary movie film? I weirdly watched all of these like within the last year for reasons I don't understand. Brooklyn, 1 minute to open.
All right, so we are going to the best of the scary movies, the first scary movie, and we are going to one of the best examples of parody in the franchise, which they are really just known for, and it's the Shorty Was Up parody of the famous Budweiser commercials. It starts off with Ghostface the killer, who at the beginning of the movie or throughout that movie is really kind of meant to be like the actual kind of like scary figure like that. That's one of the few times where this franchise really kind of like tries to stick to like the horror with the comedy. But then Shorty is just played so well as this really just kind of stoner. And it's a beautiful mashup of parody and knowing what the character is in the movie. There's some great little like costume changes throughout this. This is a very effective one punch, and it's just so silly, but man, it works, and it's giggly.
Time. Okay. All right, let's move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start.
So the scary movie franchise is really hit and miss when it comes to jokes. I'm not gonna lie. However, I found myself practically crying laughing watching the $1 Million Baby parody scene. Basically, one of the characters is in a boxing match, and then and just like in $1 Million Baby, she's she's getting the shit beat out of her, and then the round ends, and it looks like they're going to do the $1 Million Baby thing, but instead the trainer goes down and hits his head on a stool, which is placed immediately there by a hand, like just visibly putting it there, and every other person watching the boxing match as this happens also breaks their necks as the trainer breaks his, and it is just insane.
Jesus. Okay. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Jack, you're fucking dead. Man, you're dead. All right, so let's break down your scene part by part. So when Anna Faris is punching Simon Rex in the back of the head, that is they're going back to an old trope where they're doing like head trauma for jokes. They do that in Scary Movie 3 whenever they hit the Yahtzee and he jumps up and he hits his head. That was much funnier there. We talked about the whole like turns are over to Dirty Sanchez. That's a joke that has aged poorly. If we're looking at body mutilation where Mike Tyson is ripping off the ear, that isn't even like the funniest part of body mutilation in that movie. You go back to the opening with Shaquille and Dr. Phil, and he cuts off his leg. It's like, oh, wrong foot. And then the whole broken neck scene thing, that sound is not even funny. It's just cringy. It's not funny. It's cringy. And they just
welcome to the Scary Movie franchise, Brooklyn. This entire thing is cringe. That's the point of these movies a lot of the time. Here's the thing. It is parodying one very specific thing and doing it incredibly well and taking the joke to the nth degree. Like it is playing up the parody to the absolute maximum. Whereas yours, it's a 1 minute thing of them all screaming "What's up" over the phone to each other. And that 1 minute of them screaming "What's up" felt like the longest 8 hours of my life, man. Like it was grating. I'm sorry, I did not enjoy that one at all. But I think just a wild thing to choose the parody, and the way they did it is so brilliant in how they did $1 Million Baby. Like I'm sorry, like I'm not I don't think head trauma is funny or anything. Don't get me wrong. Dark humor works sometimes, and this is the best example of dark humor.
But you just said it though, that head trauma isn't funny, and like what makes Scary Movie so easily watchable for people like myself who don't really watch a ton of movies is that I don't have to watch every single movie that they're parodying to understand what they're going on. Like with Scary Movie 3, I got the Ring reference. Even in Scary Movie 4, I got the Saw and the Grudge parodies without having to watch the movie. If you don't understand the context of that parody, they're just like it grinds it to a halt too. Because like I remember her when Anna Faris is falling down, and it's like, oh, this is a lot slower than I remember. Whereas with mine, it is effective, and it's a great use of a commercial that existed with a character that is really just meant to be the stoner type, and then it transforms Ghostface because he's meant to be serious. But then, like what I was talking earlier in the opening with the mask change, where it has him progressively getting sillier and sillier, and it's like, hey yo, pick up the phone, what's up? And that's all you have to do. This is trying to do too much, and there's a lot of misses with your scene, whereas mine is literally just a home run.
I fully disagree, because having seen the Million Dollar Baby, there is nothing in that scene, in that parody, that misses. Like, they nail home every single point that is made in that scene, and do it to such an effective degree that I was honestly left speechless watching it. I had to catch my breath after watching that scene. Whereas yours, it was probably funny at the time. The commercial was around that time and was still relevant. It's not anymore, and that scene now is just kind of just a bore. Like, silly costume changes are great, but the thing that this is parodying, it is doing so well that it blows your scene out of the water completely.
But why have like nine people like break their necks over the course of it? You just constantly hear that sound effect, and it's grating. It's not funny. Why not speed it up? There are so many choices that they could have made to actually make this funnier. And to even go off again with like the whole head trauma thing at the beginning, they even do that better in their own movie. Cloris Leachman in Scary Movie 4, where she comes into the scene. And like she comes up to the fan, and it cuts off her head. Scary Movie 4 is the worst in the franchise because they rehack jokes from earlier movies that were so good. The Budweiser parody, once again, it's one thing, it's effective, and it works because it takes a character that was serious and now silly.
Let's go to Jack first. Jack, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Look, a lot more than 9 people break their necks in that scene. That's the absurdity that they go to that's the level of absurdity they go to in that scene. Every single person except for Anna Faris ends up breaking their neck watching in that scene, and it is just the way in which they parody Million Dollar Baby, just taking the horror of that scene and then making it funny and taking it to the farthest possible ends is just hilarious. Whereas the Budweiser commercial was relevant at the time, yes, not anymore. And trust me when I say that scene is a drag. Yes, the head trauma thing isn't great, but that's one aspect of the scene, whereas the rest of the scene is just building off of it on every level, and it is perfectly done.
Time. Okay, let's move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Jack said it himself. Head trauma is not funny. You said head trauma is only like one part of it. It is the majority of your thing. he gets punched in the head, and he does like the 1920s, like, oh, I'm gonna fall, maybe I'm not gonna fall. And then, like you said, like, oh, more than 9 people break their neck in the scene. That's still too many, and that's still head trauma. That's still part of it. And they use the same sound effect over and over again. The Budweiser scene is still funny because it sets up. He's like, oh, what are you doing, man? Oh, smoking a bud. Hey. And then his neighbor comes down. Hey, yo, pick up the phone. And what's up? And you see the transformation of Ghostface being like, all right, well, like, I'm about to kill this dude. Let's just embrace this moment, because that's what the audience is doing at that time. They're embracing the silliness of this moment, and everybody is joining in. There's no way that you can join in on this $1 million parody thing, because you need to watch that movie and remember a specific scene to get this, which is not good for a casual fan, which really loves scary movie franchise.
Okay. I've got to say, 5 is the worst of the franchise, and it's like
4 or 5 is correct. Yeah. As long as we can agree that 3 is the best.
No offense to you both, but I feel like both these choices are bad. But that's me. You know?
That's fair.
That's me. My wife and I every day will be like, "What are you doing?" Chilling. True. Like, we say that all the time. Or we do, son. We do Save the Last Dance parody, which resonates with us. I don't know why. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. I just rewatched all these, like I said, like within the last 6 months. I don't know why. I like to hurt myself. I don't really like any of them, frankly. Weirdly enough, I think 3 is the best, the one I like the most. This is how we say hello. This is how we say goodbye. This is how we pee. Like, I think that shit's fucking funny. I went with Jack. With these types of questions, I listen to the description of the joke. Does it make me laugh? Jack's made me laugh. I really liked Brooklyn's argument of the nicheness of having to have seen $1 Million Baby takes you out of the joke. I just don't know if that's true. The way Jack described the scene, it sounded funny on its own, even if you haven't seen the movie. Like, it sounded funny by itself. And there was never a moment through Brooklyn's description of like, oh yeah, like, oh, that scene that he's talking about, where I was like, yeah, oh yeah, that was fun. Like, it just, like, it didn't hit. And I think that Jack kind of going back against the $1 Million Baby thing with being like, this commercial it was maybe funny then, it's not now, like, that I think works as kind of an antithesis to Brooklyn's point. So I went with Jack, thought it was funnier. I don't know. Mark.
The third Scary Movie is easily the best. Like, it's not even close.
Is that also the one with the 8 Mile stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. 8 Mile. And the actual funniest scene of this franchise, which is the ring phone call that Anna Faris gets. That's easy. So I don't even know what you guys are talking about. But as far as this one goes, like, I mean, I actually kind of like both picks. I think both picks are fine. Like, Brooklyn picked the most iconic one. Jack, picked, I think, the one I think that stands out the most. I think $1 Million Baby, I think, is pretty fresh out the Best Picture win, so it made sense. I think Jack made some solid points. It's a solid, funny scene that builds, but I do think kind of Brooklyn came with a ton of points. How there are better jokes in the movie that kind of do deal with your stuff here. There's better jokes like throughout the franchise. And I kind of like his argument. There is something to the simplicity of his scene of just everybody just hanging out and just kind of doing this thing. And then at the end, Jack kind of left his chin out there in his at the end of his ending argument of I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right. The head trauma stuff isn't that great, and Brooklyn just pounced on it. Like, so yeah, I gotta go with Brooklyn. Old Knights of the Vail here. So yeah,
Nice. I love that. Robert, you were deciding this one. Has Brooklyn won, or are we moving to the bonus?
My wife and I like two a lot. You know, we like Hanson. We like Hanson, the strong hand, and we do My Germs a lot. You know, do that. You know, all those things. The commercial, the basketball parody. Like, I think that's good stuff in there.
The basketball joke is good.
Yeah. Either way, notwithstanding. There was a lot of time spent about the nature of head trauma with regards to jokes. Like if people get hurt and it's funny, it's funny. Like I don't really know why we were spending a lot of time on that.
I mean, it works for Jackass, then why wouldn't it work for anybody else?
Exactly. We're getting a fifth one of those. Jack, I liked how Jack approached some things. Like he's like, there's more than 9 people who got head trauma, and that's funny. Yeah, because sometimes absurdity is you go too long and the joke's not funny, and then you go further beyond that, and then the joke gets funny again. And that's likely what happened. I don't really remember Scary Movie 4 that well. But that's likely what happened with regards to that. And he was able to contextualize a bit about how the nature of that comedy can work with what's going on in Scary Movie 4. And then Brooklyn made a lot of solid points. I liked his opening quite a bit with regards to the points you mentioned, Tim, about like having to have the context of $1 Million Baby in the back pocket to understand the joke, and also describing different parts of different movies that took that were laid the groundwork for what had happened with regards to that. Did you guys ever watch SpongeBob?
Of course.
My favorite episode is the episode with Flats.
What?
bullies SpongeBob. You know, he's like, I have diarrhea and has to leave. But my favorite joke that I always talk about is when he goes, like, I was beating somebody up good. And then I said, life is like a bucket of wood shavings until you put them into a pail, and then they're like a pail of wood shavings. So I went with a veil of wood shavings, aka Brooklyn, because again, I just think the whole points he made, Mark alluded to it well. There were points when Jack sort of conceded parts at the end and Brooklyn was able to take advantage. But I do like those points about having the context of the joke, not needing it for regards to what's up, even though Jack tried to make it seem like it wasn't as funny. I got more descriptive things about Brooklyn and what was against $1 Million Baby, so I went with Brooklyn.
All right, well, that means your winner is Brooklyn Vail. Very, very good match from both competitors. That was really entertaining, and I thought that both players had a really good performance there. Lots to love about both of them. Mark, let's actually start with you. What were your big takeaways out of this one?
I don't know. Like, I think Brooklyn, came to play today. I think it is kind of. I think a couple of last times that we saw him, definitely getting a bit down. I think he mentioned kind of been a while since he'd won a point, and I think just the right stuff came into play for Brooklyn. And what do you know? We bring up Scary Movie. He becomes becomes an expert. Maybe you should keep throwing that out there. Worked pretty well. And yeah, Jack. I think Jack did mention bit sick today. Probably could also what could be affecting him. I think he's just too excited about the Seahawks being in the Super Bowl. I think he had his mind on another prize instead of maybe what was in front of him here today.
That's fair. That's fair, Robert. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, that'll be funny when this airs, especially if the Seahawks lose. Then it'll look really funny in juxtaposition. No, yeah, I think you're right, Mark. I think there's just a lot of times when Jack sort of stumbles over his words, given how his feelings on the particular subject. And I think when you guys voted for Brooklyn and he got that first point and took Oscars away from Jack, I think it kind of set Jack back on his heels a bit. And he was able to get a scrounge up a point, but I don't think he was able to recover from Brooklyn's side of the choices, and thus Brooklyn came out on top.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. Really great match. Thank you for watching. We're going to see Brooklyn come back very soon in another match. We'll see Jack back eventually. He always comes back, and he's always great, assuming he wants to, I guess. But fantastic stuff. Next week, we got another barn burner. We got Tyler Birch returning to the ring. He's going up against Will Cohen. That should be interesting. We'll see what happens there. But that'll do it for us. Thank you to Robert and Mark. Thank you to Jack and Brooklyn. I've been Tim. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline.
Fuck!